Hello, my name is Paul Mooney. I'm the founder of Cohesion Global, and I'm here with you for about 15 minutes or so to share with you the Cohesion dashboard, its data, and what we call the data mapping journey. The first thing to say is that we operate in the shadows of the organization, which means we go to the places that are darkest, because what we're working with is incoherence, waste, and harm. We're working with the fact that entropy, that means the slow dissolution of the coherence in the system, is accelerating, and we're working in places where there's fragmentation. Now, what we're trying to bring to the system is the opposite of this. So the opposite of incoherence, waste, and harm is coherence, economic value, and wholeness. And what we're trying to bring in terms of the opposite of being a fragmented organization is a mature and coherent workplace. So most systems look the same all over the world, whether you're a community, an organization, a religious order. There's often a leader. There is a group of managers, or direct reports, an executive committee. We call them the EXCO. There's early adopters, people that we would train as guides, and then there are the staff or the employees. And this is a system here which typically has about 200 or 300 people. It's a very typical pod size. Now, most leaders would like to be whole, but they're not. Okay. Most executive committees would like to be whole, but they're not. Same with the adopters and the same with the employees or the staff. So what does this mean? Most systems on the planet are fragmented. Silos, baggage, wounding, you name it, it's all present in such a degree that the system is getting not even the sum of its parts, because there's so much waste in the system. So we work with the leader who wants to be whole. We want to work with the EXCO to make themselves whole. Same with the guides and the adopters, and the same with the staff. And by doing this, we are beginning to track data, gather data from the leader, from the EXCO, from the guides, and from the system. Now, what data do we gather? The first thing we do with the leader is called the visionary leader maturity process. And for that, we're gathering 53 factors of how this leader is acting as an alchemist, 42 as a strategist, 45 as an individualist, 53 as an achiever, 36 as an expert, 39 as a diplomat, and 40 as an opportunist. They are data points that we're checking all the time because the leader's providing continuous, real-time, all the time feedback. Once the leader's ready, we'll run a one-day process for maybe 20 or 30 of these guys, at which time we'll gather more data during these 7 hours. We'll gather data from the leader, from the executives, from the feedbacks, from the briefings, from the groups, from the open space, the circles, and the dashboard. What that then produces is a manifesto. Then we'll take the 3 leaders away for a 3-day breakaway. Well, 2-night, 2-day breakaway. They'll come in at 6 in a particular evening. They'll leave 6 o'clock, 48 hours later. So it's 2 days from the office, but 2 nights in the venue. And for the 6 or 8 people who were there, or the 10 people, we'll be working with them very deeply, helping them to dialogue with each other, clearing away as much baggage as we can. And we get a ton of data around that. Resilience data, check-in data, safety data, what's working, what's not working, states of change, coaching data, dialogue data from the 6 dialogues, affirmation data, all that stuff. We get a beautiful data set from the 3 days. Then we go to the employees, break them up into groups of 24, and we run the 1-day version of the 2-day process for every member of staff. Guess what? We're going to end up with much more data from the system. And then when we train people how to run these circles, we gather more data from the real-time 60 minutes or online 90-minute circles, leader's dilemma, leadership skills, the incoherence in the organization, the perspectives, the coherence, the action, the learning, the feedback, the reflection. We gather all this as live data into the Cohesion dashboard. So it means that the staff who are trained to run dialogue circles bring in, or the guides who are trained to run leadership circles bring in the staff to problem solve. They bring in the leaders, but they bring in the EXCO, and the guiding team and the staff and the leader are all working far more coherently than if they were just having meetings, okay? When we put the data into the Cohesion dashboard, now we're measuring 50 energy factors, 50 economic factors, and these break down into service revenue margin. They break down into productivity, resilience, and efficiency. And you get a beautiful pyramid which shows you the coherence between the leader of the group and the organization. And then you get what was called a cybernetic scale from 7 to 1. 7 is fragmented and 1 is functionally coherent. Then once this system is ready to go to the next level, we introduce the quantum balance sheet for the leaders, where we start to gather high-level data on sales, on cost of sales, non-labor expenses, labor expenses, fixed assets, working capital, equity, debt, and for the first time, the salary bill for the business, plus 74 factors from the Cohesion dashboard. You can see the coherence of this data now operating in the system. So this means when we have deployed this in the past, for every 10% shift in the dashboard, we are seeing clients achieve a 6% increase in their economic output, which means that their net operating profit after tax increases, which means that they can now work on this metric that we call value erosion or value creation. So the return on invested capital divided by the weighted average cost of that capital will tell the shareholders whether or not the system is creating value or eroding value. And now you get a predictive system which is able to convert its potential into value for the leaders, the exco, the guides, the staff, the shareholders, the clients, and the community. So essentially, when this system is deployed, your leader is more effective. They can strategically execute value. Your exco is more resilient, more impactful, more coherent, more bonded, more collective. The followers and the guides, they become finders of your source issues. They become an action learning team, and they get involved in continuous evolution. On top of that, the staff become more productive because they co-labor in circles of trust for deeper shared meaning. So these are the multiple measurements we're taking. I'm not going to spend any time on this. Pause the video if you want to see what they are about. However, we do a bullshit test because we don't trust the self-reported data alone. We deploy a Bayes theorem which modifies the score. This is the Bayes theorem. So for example, the probability that a leader could be an alchemist is given that they say they are, multiplied by whether they actually are, multiplied by the general probability that they are, divided by the probability that they would even claim to be in the first place. So we use this on every data point, and all of a sudden you end up with a modified system and not just what people say. This is how all the lenses come together. The overall scores, leader group, organization, service revenue margin, productivity, resilience, efficiency. They break down into energy. These are the 50 datas. Here's the places where we get all these data points, okay? And when you add in the quantum balance sheet, these are the 140 items that we begin to track over time. Now, the core idea from the quantum balance sheet is here that this business is doing 100 billion euros in revenue. However, when we ask the executives, is the company operating at a premium potential for sales? And they say no to a particular degree. The business is operating at 45% of sales optimization. And when you add in the same questions for cost of sales, margin, non-labor expenses, and expenses, when you add in the same idea for equity, fixed assets, debt, and working capital, by the time you add in the people reserve, you can see by dividing the RONA at 18%, by the actual number of the weighted average cost of capital is whether or not this system's creating value, okay? You can have Power BI to give you different front ends because people learn and store information differently. So this is about being apps, it's about being chatbots, it's about being gamified. This is the type of data we collect across the score from the leader maturity work, from the discovery day, from the resilience breakaways, from the group cohesions, from the dialogue circles, okay? And over time, the last 15 years, the reason we've done this is often, and this is based on real feedback, The leaders are calling in change, but it's only lip service because there's a culture of fear, or leaders don't care. There's a victim mentality or a messiah complex waiting for somebody to save the system. There's hidden power structures, there's lies. Also, a leader may genuinely be an arsehole. You have to allow for that. There could be incomprehensible communications. There could be language that does the opposite of what it intends. Head office, local office fighting each other, hidden corruption, saboteurs, incoherent leadership, damaging executive thinking, inaccurate data, incoherent design, incoherent workflow, poor quality meetings, incoherent communication, wasteful processes, flawed business models, flawed operating design, and toxic structures. This is the reality of organization, communication, and most type of systems that are supposed to be governed. So when we come back to saying, well, what's this all about? It means that the strategy is misaligned, the structure is creating duplication, the leadership quality is disengaged, the business processes are delivering waste and fraud, the culture is full of fear, the personal visions are meaningless, disillusionment happens, and discernment doesn't take place. So there's a lot of noise, okay? But if you can measure the workflows, make real-time corrections, get coherent meetings, get coherent decision-making, and languages of feedback of progress, you will reduce the noise. That's all we're saying, is you will reduce the noise. So even in a noisy system, and to help you to dance to it, understand your limitations, accept your current reality, push where it moves, influence where you can, protect your team against vultures, be content, and use humor and happiness. That means you'll end up bouncing back, balancing gold and shadow, taking things personally, and importantly, giving up the good fight. Because now that you have data, it's no longer a fight. You have all the might that you need. So again, you're reducing the noise. So coming back to the whole system, imagine your organization with the leaders coherent, the leaders mature, the executives are resilient, the staff are coherent, the guides are running these systems, and you have a system to gather the information, produce a dashboard, and keep doing this all the time. This is what we call a cohesion intervention. Thank you very much for having a look at the data with me. If you need to get in contact, I'm on 087-338-9383 or chosenchief@cohesion.global. That's chosenchief@cohesion.global. Have a beautiful day.